Right. Welcome to Between Two Feathers with Stacey and myself. This is a monthly pre-recorded series that takes a lighthearted approach to reviewing the latest updates, bug fixes, improvements, and upcoming releases of the Synthesize platform. The show also features interviews and case studies with employees and MSP partners, aka winged warriors or feathered phenoms. The aim of the series is to provide a fun, an informative overview of the Synthesize platform's development while highlighting the individuals who contribute to its success. Now, that's a huge mouthful, but this is really meant to be a fun and informative session. This month is no different. We have a ton to get through, from bugs and improvements, new features, custom integrations, and let's talk about all the upcoming events that are coming down the pipeline here. Now, to catch up on the past episodes, check out our resource center in-app. You can also easily navigate to specific segments or chapters using the video timeline below if you're watching this recorded series. And yeah, why don't we get started by first looking at the agenda this month. Bugs and improvements. Stacey's going to get into the nitty gritty because it's been a busy month and we have a lot to cover. So we'll get into that as well as new features. We'll show you on screen exactly what's new, lots of exciting things there. As well as just a deep dive into custom integrations. And we're going to show you and run you through an example with that. And then again, we're just going to highlight all the upcoming events, including Leg Up, which is the must virtual conference that you need to go to this year. So
A couple of
Stacey,
weeks away. A couple of weeks away. Hey. So,
it's hard to believe, like this.
yeah.
I feel like this past 2 months or year has gone so fast. We're already almost mid-year and it's absolutely flying along. Now let's talk about bugs and improvements. So if I can go to the
Yeah.
next slide here.
Let's dive in. Let's take a look back and see what happened in April here, and maybe a small peek, a little bit of the beginning of the month here as well. We've been really
Sure.
busy.
Yes, we have.
Yeah, so we'll start out here with CSV imports. A couple of things did kind of roll around in there. So we did face an issue where if there was a comma value in the field, it would not upload. That has been rectified. Good job on finding that one. The CSV import button results in an error. Something went wrong. This only affected a select group of partners. And again, thank you for your patience while we did get that one resolved on our back end. The CSV many-to-one service mapping has improved logic to ensure the cards are mapped from your PSA to the CSV file, and they pull in all the usage. So this has been just fantastic to see the many-to-one mapping logic get consistently improved week over week based on users' feedback. And then one that I cringe a little while speaking about is exiting or editing an existing CSV profile. The services were unmapped if you clicked back while you were on that account mapping step. So that again has been corrected as well. So lots of improvements in there. Yeah, so that's what's there. Any questions on that, Brian, or anything?
No, honestly, as much as we progressed with Synthesize API, releasing custom integrations, CSV imports are very much still a thing. But I think with the announcement of custom integrations and what's going to be announced at Leg Up, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, you got to be there, you got to find out, because we got big plans. And, this is all geared towards streamlining and automating synchronization of usage and alerts without having to go through these manual processes, without having to manually export the usage and import within Synthesize. Albeit it's still, it doesn't take very long to do that. We want to get away with that. The proof is within integrations, and that's where we're heading. And so lots of cool things happening behind the scenes, especially when it comes to custom integrations, which we'll highlight in a bit here.
I was going to say,
But
we'll take a peek under the feather of those here in just a few
peek
minutes.
under the feather, that's right.
You bet.
But there's no question that CSV imports still have its place, and that's not going to go away. And we still will continue to further improve and iterate those imports. So lots of exciting things there.
Next
Now,
slide, if
on
you
to
would
the
please.
next.
Yeah, wonderful.
What other bugs have you squashed?
You
Tell us
know,
more.
nothing too crazy here. Creating a new account for a very short period of time displayed an error on each step while going through the process. This was shortly after one of our last releases. This was identified and addressed quite quickly. Again, great work for all of our team involved on the inside. It's always nice to recognize when we find something and get it dealt with really, really quickly, because that would not be a pleasant experience for our partners. Sign in with Google did as well have a hold on while we direct you issue that did not actually redirect. Again, this was identified and patched right away. So another term, hotfix. We got that one corrected, as soon as it was identified. And then close your account did show manage integrations, even if you did not have any connected. So that was as well addressed. So yeah, that's the other ones there, but let's look at something a little different there. If you want to go to the next slide for me, Brian.
And if I will, I might say something about
Yeah,
the sign-in
absolutely.
options and the methods. Now, if you've been paying close attention and maybe you have been speaking with your success manager, he might have or they might have let you know that we are in the works with multi-user access as well. That's
It's
coming
so
in
exciting.
that's coming in the coming months here. We're really excited to announce that because this is obviously from a security standpoint to be able to sign in with Google or Microsoft SSO is preferred. And then going forward, you can then set up multiple user accounts to access your Synthesize account. So you're not having to share credentials or share that mailbox, so to speak, and sign in with the magic link. So lots of improvements coming as far as multi-user access. This is going to be our MVP of multi-user access. And again, more things will be thrown at that later down the roadmap here. But that's just another thing that is coming down the pipeline here. So look out for that. Okay, continued. Talk more
Yeah.
about bugs.
Couple more. So on the integrations page, the filter by vendor option displayed vendors that were unavailable to connect. So that was addressed as well. Lion Guard integration setup did not have a method to cancel the setup. So for some reason you needed to back out when you were in mid-process for a period of time, we did not have the option available for you. With Datto auto task, if you updated a service quantity to 0 and did a new sync, the service card would not remove from our view or update the quantity. It continued to display the old value. So again, kudos in getting that one wrapped up. And then a very fun or unique one, fun's probably not quite the right term, would be the EMEA and APAC partners having a quantity adjustment issue going in a day early. And this was, related to time zones and conversions and things to that nature. So unique one to tackle, but that has now been resolved. So
Yeah, I'm
yeah,
super happy about that one because that one was a little bit of a pain.
it was confusing for a little bit there for sure.
Yeah, and in some PSAs, specifically that of Autotask and maybe some others, are a little bit more finicky when it comes to, those adjustments. So when it comes to the effective date and when those changes are applied, highly sensitive. So I'm super glad that we got our hands around that one and fixed that. So if you are an EMEA or APAC member, now you can sleep easy at night knowing that those are being updated as of the date you approve them. So let's talk more because it has been that kind of month. These are all very much, small little bugs here and there, but it just goes to the extent that our dev team is not sleeping at the wheel. They are punching out new features and bugs and improvements each and every month, each and every week, in fact, because we have a weekly release. Yeah, talk some more about all the other bugs that we squashed here.
I love the point that you brought out though, Brian, that our dev team is just squashing these bugs as fast as they're coming out while building up some secrets and things that are coming up here at Leg Up, and we're just running. So it's pretty exciting to see the amount of things that are going. So we did have an issue here where clicking on a card while it was processing is when you've actually pushed the action and it's in that couple of seconds where it was progressing, it would cause that card to remain on the screen. So this has been corrected. We just disabled the ability to click on that card once you've hit the adjust, so that it's able to prevent that. On import, some ConnectWise managed services appeared duplicated. This was due to active and inactive ones appearing. So that as well has been, I guess it kind of goes without saying, these have all been corrected. On the adjust model, the cost per unit displayed totals without the decimal places. The set effective date adjust model had a very off-centered UX. I generally don't highlight UX improvements because we make little tweaks all the time, and that's just sort of standard. But in this case, it was noticeable, and we had that corrected quite well. And then the vendor API displayed a get accounts 403 error when it should have reported 401. So for those of vendors building in with us, that did create some confusion, and that has also been corrected as well on our routing and things as well.
Yeah, and just to highlight the ConnectWise PSA or manage services and duplicate accounts and stuff like that. We have, I think, in this past month, improved the PSA sync with ConnectWise Manage in the sense that we're no longer pulling in not only inactive duplicates, but we're also ignoring altogether any accounts within your recycle bin. Many people don't realize, but ConnectWise Manage does have a recycle bin, and that might be full of deleted customers. So that's why some of our partners had come across those dupes, which is not great when it comes down to account mappings and such. So we've rectified that. We're no longer syncing in anything from your recycle bin, which is great. But if you're ever interested, you can just go to ConnectWise Manage, settings, mass maintenance, go to your company recycle bin. And if you really want to, just purge that. It'd probably be a good practice for you to anyways, just so you're cleansing your PSA of stale data. But I wanted to throw that out there, as well as we do have like the ability to hover over your accounts when it comes to account mappings. So that way you can identify the actual PSA ID of those accounts. So that way you can make sure that it's mapping to the right account if and ever you do see any duplicates or you're unsure as to whether or not you're mapping to the right account. So lots of really cool little just improvements on that front, which makes your life easier because you're not having to second guess yourself when it comes to mapping those things. So anything else? Are we moving on?
I think we're moving on. Like you said,
All right, we're moving
lots
on.
of improvements. It's getting good.
Yeah, this might be a short and sweet little between two ferns, but it's packed full of new features. We have, drum roll, the following. So Stacey, why don't you walk us through some of these, and then maybe I'll just stop sharing my screen after you explain a couple of these here, and we can just show on screen all these great features. What's your favorite?
Oh, that's a tough one. Probably the advanced filters is my favorite because it's one in my, my neck of the company that I've heard a lot about, really going to improve the quality for a lot of people. So if I had to pick that one, but also probably dark mode. It's a pretty 50-50. How about you, Bryan?
Yeah, I'd have to say the same. But I'm a little biased when it comes to custom integrations because I've been just punching out integrations left, right, and center when it comes down to our Synthesize PowerShell SDK. This is a newly developed SDK. It's open source. It's available within our GitHub repository. We already have 10 or 12 integrations published for you to then implement straight into Synthesize. So that list is going to continue to grow as we fast track integrations and all up towards leg up our virtual conference on June 1st, because again, we have a huge announcement surrounding custom integrations and our PowerShell SDK. Lots happening, but we'll touch on that in a second here. But why don't we walk through each feature?
Yeah.
And I'm going to stop sharing my screen here.
I was going to say, let's stop. Why don't you pull it open and maybe, I don't know, check it out in dark mode for a second. Let's see what that looks like.
Should we do that?
I
All
think
right,
so.
all right,
I think that'd be all right. Yeah.
all right. I was just going to go full screen here, and I will share my desktop. So here we go. We're going to go to the billing page. So if
Brilliant.
you were seeing Synthesize for the first time last month, and then you're looking at it this month, it's drastically different, all in a good way. Let's talk about that first one that you mentioned, dark mode. So if you go
Yeah.
to your profile up top there, you can then choose your theme and you can jump straight to dark mode. How awesome is that?
So Brian, one thing we need to mention with dark mode is it is a new feature that we have released over the month of April. We will continue to
Mhm.
flush it out. So it does not go across the entire site. So do be warned, there are some gentle surprises as we do venture this one out. But for those that prefer the darker view, we are focused on this. You'll see we just rolled out CSV in a couple of other sections in early May, and we'll continue to improve upon it. So when you do
Yeah.
make this setting, it's going to save for you in your browser, so you won't have to come and consistently change that, which is also nice. So yeah, for those of you that have the preference and like a little bit of a break on the eyes, go to your settings. We've now got dark mode and light mode available for your preferences.
Yeah, and honestly, for people like myself, which don't have the greatest eyesight, these accessibility changes certainly make a difference because it's no question as to what you're seeing. Even when you flip to light mode, you know exactly what you're looking at as far as those discrepancies. So it makes things really easier on the eyes when it comes to reviewing and approving those adjustments. So huge kudos to our team to mock this all up and get it out the door as fast as we could. And like you said, we're applying all those changes. We're essentially going to have dark mode throughout our application. Right now, it's on the integrations page, the billing page, the CSV import page, and then we will flesh that out to the rest of the application here in the coming months. So what's up next?
Well,
What's the
you
other big?
hit a word that I quite like there, which was accessibility. A lot of what we've been doing here kind of behind the scenes in this refactor, and some of these changes, little tweaks to our color scheme and things to bring the site
Mhm,
up to some accessibility and above some of those standards. And that is a part of some of those changes we're making. So I think that's a good point that you mentioned that, and a
mhm.
good segue into reactive page views. So we
Yeah.
did listen, and if you want to just resize a little bit here, you'll see that those of you on large monitors, small monitors, it's not quite perfect on cell phones. That's a little small, but we are releasing this in phases to be
Mhm.
able to function a lot better and just display more of those cards for those of you with the giant, home stations, as I like to call them.
Yeah, if you're on a 49-inch monitor, props to you because I'm a little jealous when I see partners share their screens and they're on a 49-inch. Now we have the responsiveness to show those, and again, it's really up to you, your preference. So if you choose dark mode, light mode, if you want to scale it up to like 200% zoom, or on the flip side 50% zoom, it's all very responsive, so that way you can consume all the data whichever way you want, which is great. So it's really great to see these things fleshed out, because we had a lot of real estate before all these changes, and it goes to show that we still have more to offer even when it comes to the adjust modals. Like, think of all that real estate that we can leverage when it comes to contract information, to prorations, to there's lots of things that we have in the works as far as like adjust modals to um, all these added enhancements. So what's another thing, and I might be highlighting it
I
right
think
about
you
here, this
might be on
filters
it.
button.
What I'll say before we click on the filters though is this whole bar really has had a bit of
Hmm.
a redo.
It
So any
has.
you need to take in the, in the tool here is going to be here. If you want to upload a CSV, your action is there. If you want to toggle between views, it's there. You want
Hmm.
to sort by your different features, you can enable that. And then now we're going to highlight filters. So, filters has been a big thing coming. We've got an advanced set of them. So if you want to click on that for me, Brian, and pull these up,
Yeah.
um, you know, when you're seeing our data right now, we pull it in and you're seeing everything. But every month partners have made it very loud and clear. We don't always want to see everything. What can we filter down by? So now we're able you to bring in, account name. You can filter by contract type, and like types of services, and really narrow down your view. The other thing I want to highlight, and you can probably speak more to it, Brian, but is that when you save these filters, they are again going to save for you. So you do not have to come in and do this every time. You'll see the
Right.
filters that have been put in there. The
Yeah.
other thing I'll just mention as well at the bottom here, you'll notice is we have some new filters that have been added, or new abilities here, which is to filter by type, by frequency, and by cutoff date. So if we only want to see those cards that, have had a decrease, let's see who's downgraded this month, you'll be able to come in and do that. And I'll note that the bottom three here, or those last three that I've mentioned, are a pro level advantage. So
Hmm.
certainly worth going for. So
Yeah.
yeah, Brian. So if you have any
No,
comments
these
on this, this is huge. Like we've listened. These filters have been a long time coming, and super excited to have these out here.
Yeah, and it has been much anticipated to be able to even search by service,
Hmm.
or whatever you want. So there you can do like a multi-select. So if you just wanted to look at your Microsoft, premium licenses, for instance, you can do a multi-combo box type of thing here. And this is where, again, maybe you just would rather not see no change cards. If you just want to see those increases and decreases, you can do that all from right here. And again, we're going to save those for you. There's been lots of conversations around, your monthly, your quarterlies, your semi-annual and annual billing periods. And there's no question every MSP has its own flavor as to how they resell their licenses and services. So again, maybe you're not bothered to reconcile any annual contracts right now. You just want to show those monthlies. By all means, go crazy. We do have drop downs for all billing periods, whether you well, if you're billing daily, let's talk, because you're doing something right. But there's a ton of filters here to slice and dice the data and just show essentially what you need to reconcile. So although we're pulling in everything from your PSA, again, this is just your way of getting down to brass tacks and just showing and reconciling those that really matter most to you. So once you save those, again, you can just exit out of here, and you can see here that we're saving those filters for you. And that way you can come in and reconcile these items. On top of those filters, we do show the filtered revenue and profit up top. So that way you can see not only overall your filtered revenue and profit, but uh, but also just high level those changes. So lots of feature functionality in that.
So
So have a play around with it.
So Brian, that segues. Now that you've got in here, you've customized the tool to exactly what you want to reconcile today. We've got a
Mhm.
couple of new features that are going to make it even easier to get that done. And I'm going to mention both because I think you can kind of show them sort of 2-to-1 here, or how you choose. And that is to be able to multi-select items within
Yeah.
a group in our list view. So like let's get multiple things in here at once. But even more than that, is the ability to set that effective date, and you can do it in bulk. So if we know we're going to do, all of one account, now we're able to do that.
Yeah.
So
So
those are the last two
maybe
big ones. Yeah.
yeah, maybe if you really needed to change or set the effective date for unit increases or decreases, maybe we'll just take one for now, and we can then now do a bulk selection within the group in the list view. So we can do that, and then from the little, it's kind of hidden, but if you just hover over the bulk button here, the bulk action button here, you can then see we previously had the approve and dismiss bulk actions, but now we have this set effective date. What does this do? Well, if we do multi-selections, bulk selections there, we can then set an effective date. Now, this is only for PSAs that support proration, because essentially this will be a prorated transaction. So if we ever need to go outside of the current billing cycle, so if we're sitting here on, April 1st, we're reconciling for May 1st if you bill on the 1st of every month, right? So if you want to then, come in here, maybe you were late to reconciling, or maybe you do mid-month, or you can just come in here, choose that effective date. So maybe I do want to take all of those unit increases and I want to push that back until March 1st, the month previous. Again, this gives you just so much flexibility as to making these changes. And once we can even save that, so that way you can do bulk approvals after the fact. But again, makes it stupid easy. And we will then effectively make those prorated transactions within your PSA, albeit if they are supported. So that's it in a nutshell. But again, as easy as it may look, it's been quite the uphill battle just to get these things in line and have feature functionality across all PSAs. All PSAs handle these prorations a little differently, so we were able to punch those out and get this in your hands. So yeah, that's a big one.
It's
No
huge.
question.
It's huge. It feels like a perfect time to plug, Flock Talk. These changes have been a long time coming. Our team has received
Mhm.
so much feedback. When I say our team, a lot of you've been talking to Bryan, AJ, myself, just everybody, and letting us know, hey, these are the things we need, and we heard you loud and clear. So again, continue with the feedback. Get on the Flock Talk. Tell us what's working, what's not working. Hey, this was great, but what if? We're listening. And as you can see here, I think the proof is here. We're constantly reiterating, and I can't wait to see what we bring out at Leg Up.
Yeah, speaking of which, talking about good segues, my goodness, we're on a roll today. Custom integrations. So if
Talk
you
about
haven't
it.
already heard, we announced custom integrations as of 2 or 3 weeks ago. This was in line with us actually opening up our Synthesize API. So this is only for Billing Pro users. So it does require you to upgrade, but once you do, you have access to Synthesize API and unlimited custom integrations. Now, let's just highlight custom integrations for a second, because custom integrations are really unique to our platform. Now, this is where you can create alerts and billing integrations to seamlessly integrate with your PSA. So if your vendor supports that of an external or open API, there's no question that we can turn around and create an integration within hours, yes, hours, with our PowerShell SDK. And it just so happens we chose PowerShell because, well, let's face it, everyone in the channel, pretty well knows PowerShell. And if you don't, well, there's always ChatGPT. And so there's no question that you could create an integration. And in fact, we've already punched out like a dozen or so of those already. And we're slowly transforming those with our SDK. And I'll mention that in a second. Now, why custom integrations? Well, again, this is our way of fast tracking integrations. So this is where even there are different scenarios where you as an MSP have to leverage data from not only your vendor, but maybe that source of truth is coming from business intelligence or MSP centric tools like BI services, or even, you name it, even your documentation manager or something like that. There's also sources of truth coming from your PSA. And even though PSAs are natively trying to make your life easier, they might not have the native integrations with themselves. So this is where, take configurations or contacts based on user defined fields, or list goes on. You can then pull and extract that information from your PSA, from your source of truth, to reconcile things like users or devices through configuration types, etc. So this is really opening up Pandora's box as to all the creative ways in which you go about reconciling or alerting. So really great examples of that. Now, what about another source of truth? RMM. Sometimes RMMs, although they might have native integrations with the PSA, might not work as you plan, or maybe you just bill differently. This is again where we can just leverage that API and create whatever integration you want, and bring in whatever services that you want. Another great source of truth is obviously that one-to-one vendor integration. So again, if you have a vendor that has a supported API, there's again no question that we can integrate with them. And even on top of that, I've even heard of MSPs leverage our Synthesize API to create integrations, even though a vendor doesn't have a supported API, which is kind of mind blowing. So what they're actually doing is using Selenium within PowerShell to do RPC actions, signing into the web console, going and extracting CSV imports, and then automatically sucking that into Synthesize. It is mind blowing what our MSP partners have been able to do, and yeah, we'll continue to share those things and collaborate on those things. Publish them to our SDK as we can. But there's no question, sky's the limit when it comes to custom integrations. So why don't we take some time and walk through an example? Now, before we get started, let's take a look at the SDK, which is publicly available within GitHub. If you can look, we have PS Gradient, which are modules that house all the gradient helpers and templates to make your life easier when it comes to building or implementing integrations. Now, if we drill down into the integrations directory, we can see Auvik and any other integration that we deploy to this SDK. Now, on further look, let's start at the PS main. This is a module that effectively imports the PS imports module, and then we can effectively process commands through PowerShell to sync accounts, sync services, update status of the custom integration, so we can then proceed on to the next steps and synthesize and map Auvik services and accounts to accounts and services within your PSA. And once we have finalized that custom integration within Synthesize, we can then sync usage, and we will sync usage for any mapped account or service that we had mapped previously. Now, to get started, we again first have to go back to the SDK root. We can then go to this green code button up top, download the zip, and we can extract that to any directory. And you can execute this locally on your own machine, that of a server, in Azure, etc. It really doesn't matter. Just use your own discretion there. Now, if we were to drill into the Auvik integration, let's explain essentially what we're doing. So the sample.env is that of a sample environment. So this is where we're going to house all your environment variables, everything from the vendor and partner API keys that are generated within Synthesize to the API URL, user, and key that are extracted from Auvik. Now, first and foremost, where do we get that API key within Auvik? Well, let's just head towards that partner portal. And first things first is we get that from your profile. And from here, you can actually generate that API key. How is that API key? Keep that safe and secure, but we will then populate the environment with that key. The user essentially would be your email address, followed by the URL. In this instance, this is the API URL, but we're just going to rename it to be US2 because that is our instance, and you can then find that in your URL when you go to log into your Auvik partner portal. Now that we have those three, we'll first generate the vendor and partner API keys from Synthesize. But again, download this repo, put this into a directory of your choice, whether you want to execute this on your own workstation. But once that's all said and done, we'll just walk through the steps as to what we're going to do. First and foremost, we need to generate that Auvik API token. Once that's done, we're going to then pull all device details from Auvik. And again, because Auvik treats billable devices across firewalls, switches, controllers, layer 3 switches, VoIP switches, switch stacks, routers, we're going to accumulate all these device details and then build them into these said services. So we've effectively created several services that you can then map to services or products within your PSA. So total billable devices, which would be all firewalls, total switches, routers, and controllers, to firewalls, controllers, and each itemized billable device to total switches. Again, it really depends on how you go about billing within your PSA, but we've created all these services to accommodate your various needs. So without further ado, let's go ahead and start implementing this. So I've already got started. I've already cloned this repository and I've saved this to a directory on my workstation. So I have already populated the vendor and API keys and all my Auvik credentials. So I'm going to head towards Synthesize, and then this is where we essentially will go to the integrations page and hit custom button. From here, we can add a custom integration. For this use, I've already created a billing only integration, and I've already generated those API tokens. So I'll go ahead and continue that setup here. Just give it a refresh. There you go. And I can always regenerate the API tokens if need be, but I've already populated those. So I can go ahead and start creating accounts from Auvik, then services, update the status so I can then proceed on to the next steps here, where I'm going to map those services and accounts to that of my PSA. So let's get started. I'm going to execute these through WebStorm. You can execute this through any IDE of your choosing, whether that be Visual Studios, PowerShell, WebStorm, it really doesn't matter. So here you go. I've already populated and cloned the sample.env and renamed it .env, and then populated it with all those environment variables. So I can go ahead and start executing these commands. So first things first, I'm going to execute sync accounts. So I'm going to type in this command, and I'm going to execute it based on psmain.ps1. I'm going to apply and click OK. I'm going to run this. It's going to retrieve tenants. It's getting the tenant IDs, and it's effectively created 2 accounts within Synthesize. And if we were going to look back into our Auvik partner portal, go to all sites, we can see that we have 2 organizations, Butterfly and Happy Cat. Now, going back to executing the command sync services, we have now created our accounts. Now it's time to create those services. We're going to execute that command. Click apply, okay, and we're going to run that. Now it's going to retrieve all those services that we defined within our script, and it's going to create those within Synthesize. So if we were to go back to Synthesize there and give this status a refresh, we now have all 3 accounts, including yourself as the tenant or the legal entity, and those 8 services. Now, to proceed on to the next step here, to map these things, we need to update the custom integration status to pending. So if we were to go back to our PowerShell script and execute the command update status, click apply and run that, we should get a 200 status indicating that we've successfully updated the integration status. And now we can head back to Gradient. So here we go. We're going to update that status here. And here you go. It's now in pending, and we can proceed on to the next steps. Now it's treated as if it's like no other integration within Synthesize. So we're still going to go through the process of mapping accounts and services. So here you go. We see all three of those accounts that I've created. I can very well just skip Gradient altogether because, again, that's myself as the legal entity. That's the MSP partner. So I don't necessarily need to reconcile any of those services. So I'm going to go ahead and associate these. There you go. And once done, we're going to proceed on to the next steps, where we're going to then map services or products from the PSA on the left to services on the right that we have created from that PowerShell script. So here you go. I have total billable devices. I'm going to associate that to my network device support service within my PSA, and I'm going to map that over. If we wanted to, we can actually toggle hide mapped off, and we can associate as many products on the left from your PSA to that single service on the right. Now, for this purpose, I'm just going to map the one, but I will continue on to the next steps and finish this configuration of this custom integration. I will then click OK, and we've done, up until this point, we've effectively configured and mapped all services and accounts, but it's still in pending state until we sync usage. So now that we've done that, we can then go back and execute sync usage. And so for any mapped service or account, we will then pull and sync that usage from Auvik into Synthesize for you then to review and reconcile. So let's go ahead and run that command. It's pulling the tenants, it's getting the device details, and then it's running through each. And then it's natural to see those 404 errors because that just indicates that there's no account mappings for that particular service or customer. So that has fully run through, and now we can go back to Synthesize. And if we were to go to the billing screen, we will now see usage pulled in from Auvik. As you can see, we mapped both Happy Cat and Butterfly. They were returning 28 units. So there you go. And we can go ahead and approve those adjustments and instantly write back to your PSA. That's as easy as it gets. Now you can go ahead and set that script to recur on a recurring basis, either through Task Scheduler, Azure. Again, it doesn't really matter. Use your own discretion. There's 1,000 ways to skin a cat when it comes to scheduling those PowerShell scripts, but you can effectively set that script to run that command sync usage on a daily, monthly, weekly basis, so that way we're pulling in accurate counts. And that concludes this custom integration walkthrough of Auvik. If you have any questions, any concerns, reach out to support@meetgradient.com. Any questions on that, Stacey?
Opening up just so many new opportunities. So thank you for taking the time to kind of show us, the Git and where the information is and how to get it. And again, all the steps are written there. We've got video tutorials, and then we've got, Bryan and others willing to jump on a call and walk through them with you. It's pretty exciting stuff.
That's just it. It is exciting. There's limitless possibilities as to what we can do with our API And because we have seamless integrations with your PSA, there's no question that we can be able to help you and suit your billing or alerts and needs specific to you and tailor make those solutions to you. So more announcements of custom integrations and all these other things that are coming down the pipeline at an upcoming event. And that would be Leg Up, as you know, of course, because it's grow time. If you haven't already done so, register today, because I mean, as an MSP, don't you want to take your MSP to the next level? It's a premier virtual event. Now, when I say that, it's obviously hosted by yours truly, Grady MSP. We have some awesome sponsors. If you haven't gone to register, you can do so by going to legupconference.com. You'll have the chance to learn from industry leaders, network with your peers, gain valuable insights on how to optimize your business operations. You can also enjoy a fun and interactive virtual conference experience, which is like no other.
It's pretty cool.
Complete with a 32-bit avatar that you can customize and run around with. Heck, you can even spam the F button to throw confetti. You can hit and you only hear this here. You can hit the Z button to do like breakout and dance. There's lots of fun little Easter eggs within our virtual conference space. It's going to be a blast, and it's definitely going to bring me back to my early gaming days and the nostalgia of being on like 32-bit video games and whatnot. So but in all seriousness, this is going to be packed full of informative sessions, hands-on workshops, engaging keynotes, and quite honestly, it's just going to be a perfect opportunity to network within the channel and, even win a few prizes while you're at it. And we have a lot of prizes to give away. There's no question. So don't miss out on this chance to learn from the best and taking your MSP to new heights. Register now at legupconference.com. Any more on that?
I think you failed to mention who's one of the guest speakers. Is it yours truly, Bryan Chapman?
Yeah, I will be running a hands-on workshop, cracking the code on custom integrations. There's no question that I have no dev background. I've kind of been self-taught over the years, really pushed myself in the 6+ years that I worked at an MSP, and no different here at Gradient, because really, really passionate about helping MSPs like yourself expand into new territories and really streamline business operations. And since we announced Synthesize API and opened those floodgates, this is where we punched out a dozen or so integrations in the last two plus weeks. So we're looking at like an integration a day, which is absolutely crazy. And we will keep publishing those things to our Git, and lots of new and exciting things happening. So yeah, don't miss that breakout workshop hosted by myself. And yeah, there's going to be a lot of information, everything from service delivery to marketing to special keynotes with Colin Knox, or even product updates from Rick Stern, our director of product, and Ryan Barker, our CXO and co-founder. So lots of stuff happening at Leg Up. So don't miss it. It's absolutely free. So, and you can do it from your comfort of your own home, which means that you can just come join, build your 32-bit avatar in your sweatpants, and yeah, it's going to be a blast. So register. Next up is Nerdy Birdie with yours truly. I don't know why I can't go next, but this month's series is pretty exciting because we're actually collaborating with Roost to help you streamline workflows and save time. So learn how to use Roost an automation tool that automates tasks and processes, and how to build custom workflows that meet your specific needs with Synthesize API. Now think about that. So this is where you can actually build custom workflows in Roost and improve your business efficiency by automatically syncing in usage from Roost's connectors with S01, with Duo Security, with SureWeb, etc. They already have this published in their Crate marketplace. So this is where you can then use that template, so to speak, and automate billing by leveraging our custom integrations and their workflows. So really exciting opportunity. So don't miss out on this one. Register today for Nerdy Birdie as two birds of a feather come together. So that is Tuesday, May 16th in a couple of weeks' time at 10 a.m., 12 p.m. Eastern. So lots of exciting things coming out of that. Now let's wrap this all up. And yeah, until next time, stay tuned for the next installment of Between Two Feathers. And if we don't hear from you until then, stay calm and flock on. Thanks for listening.